The story of the serpent in Genesis, and its role in the story of Adam and Eve, is one of the most iconic and discussed narratives in the Bible. The traditional image of the serpent as a symbol of evil, deception, and temptation has deeply influenced religious and cultural interpretations of this text. However, analysis of the original Hebrew text leads us to question whether this figure is really what we have always believed. What if it were not a literal serpent, but a more complex character? This perspective invites us to rethink the entire story and explore a deeper message behind the biblical account. To better understand the role of the serpent, it is essential to return to the original Hebrew text, where the term nahash is used to refer to this character in Genesis 3:1. Traditionally, nahash has been translated as serpent, but Hebrew is a language rich in meaning and nuance. In fact, this word has several meanings, and in addition to serpent, it can imply a charmer, or one who possesses mystical or esoteric knowledge. This linguistic ambiguity opens the door to an interpretation that goes far beyond a literal snake. Is it possible that Nahash refers to a being with special knowledge or even a character with supernatural powers? This possibility radically transforms our understanding of this figure. From a symbolic perspective, the serpent in Genesis may represent forces of chaos or rebellion, an idea common in many ancient cultures. In Babylon, Tiamat, a deity related to chaos, was represented as a snake or dragon, while in Norse mythology, the Midgard serpent symbolized a threat to the world order. These references suggest that the role of the serpent in Genesis could be similar, symbolizing disruptive forces that challenge the order established by God. In this sense, rather than a simple deceiver, the serpent could embody a chaotic principle that tests human obedience and balance in the world. Another intriguing possibility is the comparison of the serpent to mythological characters, such as Prometheus in Greek mythology. Prometheus defies the gods and brings fire, a metaphor for knowledge, to humanity, an act that, while bringing suffering, also enables humans to develop and progress. The serpent in the Genesis account, in this context, could represent not only a figure of temptation, but also an agent of enlightenment, offering humanity access to knowledge that was previously forbidden. Like Prometheus, the serpent could be seen as an ambivalent figure that plays an important role in human evolution, pushing it toward greater understanding and autonomy. This interpretation invites us to consider Eve's temptation not as a simple act of disobedience, but as a search for wisdom and autonomy. In the story, the serpent suggests to Eve that eating the forbidden fruit will open her eyes, giving her the knowledge of good and evil. From this perspective, the act of eating the fruit symbolizes the human desire to explore and understand the world, as well as to challenge imposed limitations. The serpent, then, would not be just an agent of evil, but a manifestation of human curiosity and the innate drive to discover the unknown. Ancient Near Eastern cultures also offer a different view of snakes. In Mesopotamia, the god Ninazu, linked to vegetation and the underworld, was frequently depicted as a snake, while in Egypt, the cobra was a symbol of the goddess Wadjet, associated with protection and royalty. In these contexts, snakes were seen as powerful creatures, not necessarily evil, but wise and protective. This suggests that the snake in Genesis could be interpreted not just as a deceiver, but as a figure who possessed special knowledge and played a vital role in human history. John Milton, in his work Paradise Lost, depicts Satan in the form of a snake, tempting Eve by appealing to her desire for wisdom and freedom. This narrative is not so different from other mythological tales, in which the search for forbidden knowledge is a central element in the conflict. Thus, the serpent in Genesis could represent something deeper than just temptation. It could symbolize the conflict between obedience and autonomy, between submission to divine laws and the human desire to be independent and have control over one's own destiny. This reinterpretation raises important questions about the nature of temptation and the role of divine beings in human life. Could it be that the serpent, by offering the knowledge of good and evil, was participating in a fundamental process for the development of humanity? According to this view, Eve's act of disobedience could be interpreted not only as a fall, but as a necessary step in human evolution, a moment of transition that allows humanity to move from innocence to conscious and mature understanding. Moreover, this new vision of the serpent in Genesis invites us to critically analyze our own perceptions of good and evil. The narrative of Adam and Eve speaks not only of the fall of humanity, but also of the complexity of human nature, which constantly struggles between the desire to obey and the desire to explore and learn. The figure of the serpent symbolizes that human drive for knowledge, a drive that can be both beneficial and dangerous. In this sense, the Genesis account becomes a metaphor for human life itself, a journey filled with choices, temptations, and ultimately, growth. In the end, what this reinterpretation shows us is that the story of the serpent in Genesis is much more than a simple cautionary tale. It is a deeply symbolic narrative that reflects the human struggle to find a balance between order and chaos, between obedience and freedom, between innocence and understanding. This approach reminds us of the importance of studying biblical texts in their original language and in their cultural context, as only then can we fully understand the richness of their meanings. Exploring the Hebrew text and the various cultural interpretations allows us to see the serpent in a new light, not just as a malevolent character, but as a multifaceted and profound figure that represents essential aspects of humanity. In doing so, we find ourselves not only with a renewed vision of Genesis, but with an invitation to reflect on our own nature, our choices, and our desire for knowledge. So, if this reflection has led you to rethink the story of the serpent and the account of Adam and Eve, leave us a comment on what struck you the most. Don't forget to subscribe for more content that inspires and challenges you to deepen your faith. Thank you for joining us, and may God bless you in your search for truth.